Hey everybody, welcome back to the Homestead. My name is Kevin. Well, I'm back tonight with another snack food recipe for you. As you know, Sarah's always trying to bring you these healthy recipes, what she makes us for dinner, trying to keep us all healthy on the homestead, and I'm the guy who likes to bring you snack foods. This one is pretty healthy, but it's still something that you can make easily on any given night. And have to sit around and kind of snack and crunch on. I think the thing about snack foods that makes them so good is just having that kind of crunchy something to snack on. Well, we eat a lot of popcorn, we eat a lot of these crackers that I'm going to show you how to make tonight, and just other things that are fairly healthy but simple to make. We don't buy any bread products from the store anymore. All of the bread products that we eat, we make here on the homestead. Now, part of the reason for that is because we like to eat organic wheat products. In our small town, it's very hard to find organic products in general, and the ones that we can find are typically very expensive, especially for things like crackers. This recipe that I'm going to teach you how to make tonight, which uses organic flour and organic oats, costs almost nothing to make and is so easy. And to be honest, where we live, by the time I would drive to town and get back with a box of organic crackers, I could have already made these and be sitting on the couch eating them. So let's get started. I'm going to show you exactly how easy these are to make. Alright, so the first thing that we need to do is basically make some oat flour. Oat flour in the store, especially organic, can be pretty expensive, but I'm going to show you a simple way to just make what we need for these crackers. We just have some old-fashioned oats, organic oats that we buy in bulk. I'll leave a link in the description. We get these from Azure Standard, and they're fairly inexpensive when you buy them in bulk. And then I'm just using a, it's like a magic bullet. I don't really know what you call it, a personal blender, I guess it's called. I bought this at Walmart for like $9, so nothing fancy. We don't really cook fancy meals here on the homestead. We try to keep things simple with ingredients that everybody would have. Because honestly, that's what we have. We're going to start by just taking a cup of these organic oats. And they don't have to be organic, whatever kind of oats you have. And we're going to put these in our blender. And then really all we're going to do is grind these up into a fine powder in the blender. Alright, there we go. That's our oat flour. Now, I used old-fashioned oats. You can use old-fashioned oats, you can use quick oats. I would not use whole oats, probably in a grinder like this. You could probably do it if you have an actual grain mill, but in one of these grinders I would stick with either the old-fashioned or the quick oats. Now, this is a recipe that I've been kind of playing with and coming up with really for several years, probably 4 or 5 years. I've made a lot of different versions. The reason that I like this version and the addition of the oats is because they turn out really crispy and kind of not crumbly, but they crack really well. If I had to compare it to a store-bought cracker, they'd be kind of like a wheat thin. That's kind of how they crack and you know, crisp in your mouth. So we're just going to get out the mixer, and then we're going to get started putting in all of the other ingredients. Alright, I've got my mixer out. If you don't have a mixer, no big deal. You can do this by hand. If you have a hand mixer, that's fine too. Whatever you need to do to mix everything together. This, again, is very simple ingredients. We're going to start with the oat flour that we just made. So it's 1 cup. And then we're going to use 2 cups of organic all-purpose flour. If you don't have organic, you can use just regular all-purpose flour. You can use whole wheat organic flour if you want. Whatever you have should work just fine. So we're going to put 2 cups of flour. So we have our 3 cups of flour, the 2 cups of wheat flour, and the 1 cup of oat flour. We're going to put our whisk on, and we're just going to mix that all together. Alright, now that we've got our flours all mixed together, we're going to add our other ingredients. We're going to start with 2 teaspoons of salt. We use the pink Himalayan salt. Next thing we're going to add is 2 teaspoons of sugar. We use non-GMO cane sugar. Any kind of sugar will do, but the cane sugar is non-GMO, and that's what we prefer. And then the last dry ingredient that we're going to use tonight, I'm going to be adding a tablespoon of oregano. Now you can use any type of herb that you like in these, or you don't even have to put it in at all. If you want them just plain, just stop right here and mix all of this together. But I'm going to be adding a tablespoon of oregano. I think it gives them a really nice flavor. You can use Italian seasoning, or again, any kind of dried herbs that you want. So now that we have all of our dry ingredients in the bowl, we're just going to mix those together with the whisk. Alright, now that all of our dry ingredients are mixed together, we're going to add 4 tablespoons of oil. I'm using sunflower oil. That's kind of our preference. We don't use much regular vegetable oil because, again, it's mostly all GMO. But you can use olive oil, you can use whatever you want. I like the sunflower oil because it's really light tasting. It doesn't really add much taste at all to the things that you're making. Alright, now that we have all of that mixed together with the whisk, we're going to take the whisk off and we're going to change to our dough hook. Right, so the last thing we're going to add is 1 cup of warm or hot water. Now I don't add it all at once. I put in probably 3/4 or maybe just a little bit more and let that mix and see where it's at. You want everything to come together, and it should be a fairly sticky dough. But not like a batter. I mean, you need it to be a firm dough, but a little bit on the sticky side. That'll make it easier to roll out. Let me show you what we do. Okay, so I've added the entire cup of water from my measuring cup, and it's still just a little bit dry. So I'm going to teach you guys a little trick that I've learned from years of making bread. You don't need to add much water at a time. You don't want to get into this game of you add a little water, now it's too wet. Now you need to add a little flour, and now it's too dry. And then you go back and forth and back and forth. I used to do that, and it drove me crazy. So what I've learned is at this point, if it needs just a little bit more water, don't use it in a measuring cup. What I do is I just go over to the sink, I run the warm water, I put a little bit on my hand, and I just kind of flick it in, or even, touch the dough a little bit. But you only need a tiny bit to make a big difference when it comes to making dough. So that's what I'm going to do. And just that little bit extra moisture from your hands will make a big difference in that dough. And I bet that'll be about perfect. And you can see that now that is coming together into a really nice dough ball. So now that that is formed into a nice dough ball, I'm going to let the mixer continue to run with the dough hook, which will knead the dough right in the mixer. You could pull it out at this point and knead it by hand. A lot of times I do that as well. Today I'm just going to do it with the mixer. I'd let it run for 2 or 3 minutes. Basically what I'm going to do is turn this on, clear off the counter, get my kneading board out, preheat the oven, and by that time the dough will be all done being kneaded. Alright, so the dough is all done kneading. I've got my kneading board out, oven is preheating, and so we're going to get going. Now, when I've done recipes in the past for pizza dough and things like that, you guys have asked so many questions about the board that I use for kneading. It's nothing really that special. It's a piece of oak plywood that I bought many years ago from I think Lowe's. It just works really, really well. In fact, the more you use it, the better it works, because the flour that you've used kind of gets down into the wood, and it just makes a really nice surface for kneading doughs. Now, I used to have a big problem with this thing sliding around on the counter, and I actually heard from a lot of you guys suggestions to take a damp towel and put it underneath the board, and then it won't slide around. And ever since I've been doing that, it works out so well. So that's what I'm going to do. Now it doesn't slide. I also prefer this type of rolling pin versus the kind that has the little handles on the side. I think you can just get a lot more pressure with this kind. You can also kind of move it around better. I suppose it's probably whatever you get used to, but this is the kind that I really prefer. And I do a lot of this type of baking where we're rolling out pizza doughs and crackers and things like that, and this just works really, really well. Alright, let's get our dough out. Now, we're going to be baking these tonight on pizza pans because I find that that's the easiest way to roll it out and the easiest way to cut them. So this is going to make 2 pizza pans worth of crackers. So the first thing we're going to do is just cut this in half. And that oregano in the dough smells so good. We're going to add a little bit of extra flour to our board. At this stage, I like to use probably more flour than I really need to, but there's nothing worse than getting these all rolled out real nice on your board and you go to pick them up and it's all stuck to the board. So I use a lot of flour. Alright, so we're going to start by just squishing the ball or the piece of dough into a flat piece like this, and then we're just going to start rolling. Now the more that you've kneaded the bread either by hand or in the mixer, the easier it will be to roll out. If you haven't kneaded it enough, then it's going to have a lot more elasticity to it and you're going to have to do a lot more rolling. But basically we're just going to try to roll this into a nice thin circle, and it really depends on what size pans you have, what you're baking them on. If you just have cookie sheets and want to bake them on cookie sheets, that's fine. You just need to roll them into a shape that'll fit on the pans that you have. Now, as far as the thickness of the crackers, it's kind of up to you. The thinner that you roll them, the crispier they will be when you bake them. So we've got that rolled out. I'm going to grab my pizza pan and I'll show you how to transfer it from here to the pizza pan. Got my pizza pan here. What we're going to do is just sprinkle just a tiny bit more flour on top of the dough. Spread that around, and now we're going to fold the dough into fourths. So we're just going to bring it over like this, and then we can pick up the whole piece of dough, bring it over to our pan, and unfold it on our pan. Perfect. I've done this once or twice, so if it doesn't work out for you the first time, just keep trying. The beautiful thing is, if you mess something up, you just kind of re-knead the dough and start over and try again. You'll get better every time. I'm going to do the same thing to our other half of the dough, and then we'll get these ready to be put in the oven. Okay, so we've got both of these rolled out, but before they can go in the oven, there's two more things that we need to do. The first thing is, what I like to do is take a fork, and we're going to poke a bunch of holes in this, and that way, if there's any air bubbles in the dough, they won't puff up real big in the oven. So I like to just take a fork, I hold it upside down between my fingers like this, and I do the same thing when I make pizza dough, and it works really well. Just kind of bounce that fork off of the dough and make as many holes in there as you can. Alright, and then the last thing that we need to do is we're actually going to cut these into the shape of the crackers before we bake them. If you wait till after you try to cut, they'll just crack apart. So I like to cut them into pretty small crackers. What I've discovered is that it's not so much about how much you're eating when you're snacking, especially. It's about how many times you do this. It's like you need to put your hand to your mouth a lot of times. So smaller crackers give you more opportunity to do that. And I don't know, there's just something about sitting around and being able to snack that makes you feel good. So I cut them into what I would consider probably like, you know, like store-bought crackers, like wheat thins, like that size. But heck, if you want to bake these and make one humongous cracker, feel free. Alright, so we're going to put these in the oven now, again on 425 degrees for about 7 minutes. Then we're going to take them out and we're going to do something else to them that I'll show you when we get to that point. Alright, so they've been in for 7 minutes. I'm going to take out one pan at a time. And what we're going to do is we're going to spray oil on the top of these. If you don't have an oil sprayer, you can brush oil on top. If you don't have one of these, I really suggest you get one. You can put any kind of oil that you want in there, and it's got this little lid that you just use to like pump it up. And that way you don't have to use the aerosol stuff that you buy at the store. You can just spray oil right on, and it works really well. So I'm going to just spray these with the sunflower oil, and then I'm going to sprinkle them with salt. And then we're going to put this back in the oven. We're going to switch the pans around, so whatever was on top goes on the bottom and vice versa. Alright, we're going to put those back in for another 7 minutes and then we'll check on them. And from here on out, it's just kind of a game of checking on them every once in a while. And you want to keep them in until they get nice and golden brown, or whatever you're comfortable with, that they're brown enough but not starting to burn. So we're going to go with another 7 minutes and then we'll check on them. Alright, the timer went off. I peeked in and I think they look about perfect. So let's go ahead and take them out. This is kind of what you're looking for, a little bit brown around the edges, but you know, not burnt. And then what we're going to do is we're going to leave these cool on the pans for a little while, and then we're going to transfer them to something else to cool. They will crisp up after they've been out for a while. As they cool off, they'll get more crisp. Some of them in the middle may not be quite as crisp. That's just the way it's going to work, but they're going to be delicious. Alright, the crackers are all cooled down. I put some in a bowl. I've still got some here. I wanted to show you guys how crispy these turn out. I mean, you can see they really just crisp so nice. And that's just how they turned out this time. Our family just loves them the way they are. Sometimes they're not as crispy as others, but hey, they are great crackers. So I hope you guys will give this recipe a try. Like I said, I've been working on this recipe for several years. Sometimes I would add more oat flour, more wheat flour, all wheat, all oat. I mean, I played around with different types of flours, everything. This is the recipe that I came up with that I think is the absolute best. Give it a try. I hope you'll send us some pictures on social media showing these crackers that you've made. I know you guys are going to love them. Hey, if you're not a subscriber to our channel yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button before you leave. If you're one of our traditionalists who comes back every day, thank you so much. We appreciate you guys so much. And until next time, thanks for stopping by the homestead. Take care, and God bless.